G'day Internet, Max Wright here, and welcome to part 8 of our video series, Everything You Need to Know About Bitcoin and Cryptocurrencies for Newbies and Advanced People. Now, if you're new to the series, I highly recommend click the link in the description. The first link in there is going to be that of the entire playlist, and you can catch yourself up. The beautiful thing about learning in a completely free video series like this, if you want to become a Bitcoin expert, then what you want to do is watch these video series like this where it's well thought out and planned and there's no repetition. If you just start clicking around YouTube, jumping around, going video to video, you're going to be inundated with just repetition. You're going to hear the same thing over and over again. With a video series like this, in the space of about 90 minutes, you are going to become an absolute expert. So if that sounds fun, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and let's get into it. This particular video, we are talking about the threats to Bitcoin, right? We've been talking about all the good side, all the upside, all the potential for Bitcoin. Now let's talk about the threats, the common slurs people put against Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Let's see if we can understand them a little bit better. So the first one that people often talk about is volatility. The price goes up, the price goes down. How can you buy one day like milk or sugar or cars or houses priced in Bitcoin? The price swings around too much. Yes, this is true, especially for the first world, and we are used to relatively stable prices. But a couple things to think about here. In the future, this volatility will go down. Right now, it's in price discovery mode. There are a lot of speculators trying to figure out what it's going to be, how much of the world is it going to take over? What's the price of Bitcoin going to be in 5 years, 10 years' time? But that kind of diminishes over time. It's true of all things, by the way. It's often shielded from us, but like the price of Facebook, right? What was the price of Facebook in its first 5 years? Well, that was shielded from us and really the whole market because that is done through seed rounds and it's done through Series A, Series B, and they just have these one-time funding things. But if it was on the stock market at that point, early in its career, it would be wildly swinging up and down. Oh my God, there's a lawsuit against Facebook. It's going to bankrupt the company. They're dead. Price crashes up and down and sideways. When things are early on, there is a lot of volatility in there. Usually it's shielded from us. But with the world of Bitcoin, we actually get to see it, and it's kind of fun. Another thing I want to point about is over the short term, yes, Bitcoin is volatile. But over the long term, it is boringly spectacular, going up 200% per year. If you have a time horizon of greater than 4 years, it performs its function of being a store of value unbelievably well, right? There is not a single person on the planet who bought Bitcoin and 4 years later had lost money. As long as you held it, you had made money. Bitcoin has never gone down over a 4-year period. So for the longer time horizon, it's perfectly acceptable, and it's a great place to be because it's going up so much. Like I said, boringly spectacular. Another note is to say that although I live here in the United States, my privilege of that is that I have this relatively stable currency called the US dollar, although they're printing it out like mad and debasing it. But it's relatively stable, I get that. In many, many parts of the world, they do not have that luxury. I can think of 5 countries off the top of my head that are going through serious currency crisis, inflation of 50%, 100%, right? Remember, there are over 3 billion people who live in an environment of double or triple digit inflation, right? The value of their currency swings around wildly. And so for them, the volatility of Bitcoin is not really an issue overall. And once again, long term, it just becomes less and less relevant. Another one, Peter Schiff is famous for this one, that Bitcoin has no utility. It's like, well, what do you do with it? It's like it's perfectly engineered money. It doesn't need to do any other things, but in fact, it does do a lot of things in the fintech world. But I don't need to understand any of this to know the foolishness of this argument. There are huge corporations out there, like major Wall Street companies like Fidelity and whatever, who they borrow Bitcoin. They pay interest to borrow Bitcoin to provide financial services to people, right? So think about this. They're not buying Bitcoin to see the price of it. They do it as well. They do buy Bitcoin and store it as well. But they also borrow Bitcoin, meaning, yeah, they're not exposed to the price. You can't say they're speculators. You can't say they're there. They don't give a damn about the price. They need to borrow Bitcoin to provide its utility to its customers, and then they charge them fees. So it's very, very clear that Bitcoin has utility. Regulation is a big one. People are always like, well, the governments can shut it down. They can be difficult. And we kind of just went through something very, very interesting. China banned Bitcoin. They banned all Bitcoin mining in China. And it was very interesting. About 40% of the entire Bitcoin infrastructure got turned off in the space of a relatively short amount of time, over like a week or two. All this equipment was put into shipping containers and sent all across the world. And over the following few months, it's being turned back on. We're kind of 3/4 of the way through that process right now. What's fascinating is the world's never seen anything like this. Just think if like 40% of Wall Street infrastructure just got turned off one day. I mean, the markets would absolutely crash, things would seize up, the entire financial world would fall apart. Bitcoin didn't miss a beat. Users of the Bitcoin network were not inconvenienced at all. Nothing happened. And it really highlighted the resilience. We knew it would happen. We've theorized around it, but it was actually kind of fun to see it happen and play out exactly as predicted, that Bitcoin is indestructible. Bitcoin will be around here forever, no doubt about it. Now, a lot of people say, yeah, but what about if, like those layer 2 solutions we've talked about in other videos, what about if the governments regulate things like Coinbase and Kraken and the exchanges and the other kind of businesses around that? And there's a couple things to think about here. Number one is it would be extremely unwise for them to do it, because all that innovation and all that thing would just go offshore. And people would find some other country. There's some country who's going to be open to it. And we look at that today. I think there's 7 countries in the world right now. And not nothing. We're talking about like Portugal's one of them, in the EU. 0 taxes on cryptocurrency. You can go and just make a fortune in cryptocurrency, as people do, and you can cash that out. You pay 0 taxes on your cryptocurrency gains in Portugal. So there are all these countries are vying. So, it's very clear already that the world's richest people are going to be the people who are involved in Bitcoin now and earlier. Like, there's people with hundreds of millions of dollars. That's because they got involved in Bitcoin early, and I'm expecting it to go up significantly more over the next few years. So you want to attract that wealth to your country. That's called game theory. So there'll be some countries who suppress it. There'll be some countries who go, like, we want these people. We want these people bringing this wealth because they buy real estate, they spend money, they employ people, they launch new businesses. And so game theory plays out. And it's just the countries who kind of get intimidated by Bitcoin and try to shut it down, huge mistakes, and they basically reverse it a little while later. And we've seen that many times, where countries comes in, they're heavy-handed with Bitcoin, they think they can shut it down, idiot politicians make onerous rules about it, a year or two later they lift it up. So long-term, these regulations are not really a big issue. A second issue to consider is we're in the process, we're in the early innings of this concept of decentralization. Everyone understands that to escape tyranny, and if you might be living in a country where you don't really see that happening to you right now, I can't imagine what country that is, but let's say there's one. There's many people all over the world where the tyranny is just creeping up, boiling up, and is just going to drown them one day. And there are just hundreds of millions, maybe, who knows, probably hundreds of millions will do it, tens of millions to hundreds of millions of entrepreneurs building tools to help people keep their freedom. And so Bitcoin is step 1 of that. Cryptocurrency is step 1 of that. But already there's just so now we've got decentralized currency, but soon we'll be having decentralized exchanges. In fact, Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter, he's announced he's going to turn Twitter into a decentralized exchange. So people can, you can trade peer-to-peer, right? If you go peer-to-peer, then there's big third parties, there's no like big Coinbases and Krakens. All of a sudden, nothing against those companies, by the way, I don't have a bad word to say about them, they're providing services. But when the men with guns, the armies and the police come in and say, okay, confiscate everyone's Bitcoin, they're going to confiscate everyone's Bitcoin. It's a weak point. Hence, I always teach people, you go on Kraken, you go on Coinbase, use those facilities, buy your Bitcoin, get those coins off, have them in your possession. Eliminate that third-party risk. Very important. And we are just going to have decentralized exchanges where the more people use, it's network effects, right? It's Metcalfe's law. If you're the only person with a fax machine is useless. So right now, maybe you know someone who you can buy crypto off. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Right? By 2027, there's going to be 3 billion Bitcoin users. It's almost every second person on the planet. You're going to know someone you can buy and sell Bitcoin off, right? That's just a few years away. And so this decentralization just expands and just engulfs everything. So there's nothing that they can do to shut down Bitcoin. Okay, here's one of the interesting ones. Here's where it's kind of everything I've said so far. This is a true for both Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. All the other altcoins, Ethereum, everything else. In my mind, there's just no serious threat to the cryptocurrency world. It will take over the world. Okay, but this slide, I titled it Threats to Bitcoin so I could put this section in here. And see, so, okay, there's a Bitcoin and Ethereum and lots of other chains. And so the question becomes, is one a bigger threat than the other? So first of all, I'd say, the only thing that I can see that will knock Bitcoin off its perch as the dominant currency layer is if something better comes along. Now, some people might say something better already has come along. It's called Cardano, it's called Ethereum, it's called Polkadot, it's called Tron, it's called Binance Coin, whatever, right? Some people would say it's already come along, right? So now we're going to discuss this. This is the only legitimate threat to Bitcoin. Something to consider. I think Bitcoin is going to be very, very strong, but it's something to consider. Now, let's have a look at the landscape here. There's thousands of cryptocurrencies out there now. Bitcoin was the first. Bitcoin is still the biggest, but there's a lot out there, right? And they're all trying to be the best. They're all trying to gain market share. Number one, this is extremely healthy. It would make the system less robust if the whole universe, the entire financial world, had to operate on one single chain. It would make it would make the world risky. It would make it dangerous. It means we would not have redundant systems there. So this is a good thing. It is good for the world. It's good for everything to have lots and lots of cryptocurrencies out there, all trying to be the best. Competition breeds excellence. And all of these things, trying to be the best, trying to gain market share, trying to get their coin to go up in price is a good thing. So now we have to understand, as investors, we've decided, if you've watched the rest of the video series, hopefully it's pretty clear to you that you want to be involved in cryptocurrency in some way. The question is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others. Here's what I can tell you. I'm just going to give you the lay of the land, right? And we could go deeper into this perhaps in a later video series. But for right now, Bitcoin wants to be very, very simple, layer one money. It wants to be very, very simple, all right? And then we can build all the exciting, fun things like decentralized finance on layer two. Okay, in the world, for most other coins, they want to be everything on the main chain, meaning they want to be layers one and layers two on the main chain. And there are pros and cons to this. That kind of concept is far riskier and a lot less secure, right? We can't ever say with like perfection that Bitcoin has no vulnerabilities in the code, right? It's been around for 11 years. No one's managed to exploit it for 1 penny yet. 11 years later, millions of pairs of eyeballs on it. We can be pretty damn confident there's no vulnerability in the code that somebody could find one day. But do we know for certain? Can we say with absolute specificity and certainty that that is true and will be true forever? No one can about anything ever. So, right? So you can't make that claim. So given that there are these small, tiny fractions of risk in something, we have to compare that fraction of risk versus the other fraction of risk over here. In the world of Ethereum and the other coins, etc., the altcoins, I'll just call them from now on, in those two worlds, these coins do more things. They have a greater feature set. They're feature rich on that first layer. It's like use the Ethereum token and you can do more stuff with it. However, without any shadow of a doubt, you have to acknowledge that there is more risk there. And so now you get this, you got to weigh it up. Okay, you got this thing there in the world of Bitcoin, which is safer and more secure, and then it will do more, we can do more fun stuff on layer two. Build decentralized applications to go on top of it that use Bitcoin. That is a safer system. Then if one of them breaks, no worries, it can be fixed, but the layer one money is still safe and pristine and secure. Okay, you jump over here to Ethereum and all the rest of the altcoins basically. They've got a different model. Trying to compete Bitcoin, they have sacrificed to some degree security. But they say, hey, we bring more features to the network. Arguably, Bitcoin will be able to do those features as well eventually on layer two, but these are the things that we have to kind of wait out. So, in my opinion, the only threat to Bitcoin is something might come along better than it. From what I see in the world right now, there is nothing that beats Bitcoin, right? Now, as I said, I've got to be fair and balanced here. Some people say there is something better than Bitcoin already. It's called Ethereum, it's called Cardano, it's called whatever your flavor of chain is. And some of the altcoins. And so this is a very, very interesting debate. And again, it applies to once you're inside the crypto world, now you've got some choices to make. But hopefully I've kind of helped you understand some of the threats to the cryptocurrency world, and they're kind of moot. They're not very significant threats in my opinion, and cryptocurrency will take over. But once we get in the cryptocurrency world, now we've got to see which will work. Now, I will say this. It's not going to be like Bitcoin goes to zero and all the coins go to zero and Ethereum goes up, or Bitcoin goes to infinity and Ethereum goes to zero. That's not going to happen. Forget about that. That's not going to happen. There's not going to be just like one thing that wins it all. There's going to be a lot of things. There'll be a very, very long tail. There'll be tens of thousands, millions of projects, and all of them added up combined won't equal like a Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever the winner ends up being. There'll be a very, very long tail, but even at the top, even at the head, there'll still be several chains doing several things with different use cases. And that's a good thing, and it makes the entire community more robust. All right, guys, if that was an interesting concept for you, tell me in the comments below, what do you think are the biggest threats to the cryptocurrency world? Within the cryptocurrency world, what do you think is we going to end up in a world where there's like one chain and everything like else goes to zero? Or do you see lots and lots of chains being around forever? In that world, which ones do you think are going to be the biggest at the end of the day? Fast forward 10, 20 years, what is the dominant player? Is it Bitcoin? Is it Ethereum? Is it something we haven't seen yet? Let me know in the comments below. And as it's standing right now, what are you most excited about in terms of price appreciation? Bitcoin or Ethereum or some other coin? Let me know in the comments below. I'm sure we're all going to love to read those comments. Now, I'm very, very excited to share with you that the 9th and final portion of this video series is available for you to watch right now. It is called Where Can the Price of Bitcoin Go? And we can bring in all the parts of the demand side of Bitcoin that we've talked about. We introduce a whole bunch of new knowledge for you about the supply side of Bitcoin, and we lay out the investment thesis for you. I think you're going to see just an incredible amount of cryptocurrency millionaires being printed over the next few years. The question is, will you be one of them? I think once you see the conclusion to this presentation, the answer will be obvious to you. So I would like you to please now click on the second link in the description of this video, and go over to my charitable foundation site. It's called successcouncilfoundation.org. The video is completely free. I'm not even asking for donations, but what I would like you to do is go ahead and enter your email on that website, and then I will send you the video so that way I can continue to educate you via email with regards to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and keep you abreast of what's happening in this world. So if you would like to have access to that information, and if you want to see the conclusion to this video series, go ahead, click on that link right now. It's the second link in the description. I'll also put it up here, yes, up here on the top of the screen. You can also click on that. A little eye should pop up. You can click on that and you should be able to go through to the site. So go ahead and do that now, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.